Well, I know one thing. You don't wait for your enemy to come to you.
I have lost all my skills. And now I know how it feels to be utterly helpless, like you and your sister.
He had your gun in his hand.
Sing the song for me, Silky. This is murder.
And the thing about saying the wrong word is that A, I don't notice it, and B, sometimes orange water given bucket of plaster.
It is the Al Travis Show, and in reality, we are very lucky to have this next guest. She's on a bit of a winning streak. She has yet to be mauled by a bear for like 23 consecutive trips to the cabin, so they're on a roll. How are you, Senator? You look at me like, what is he talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to put this out there for the world to discuss, it might be a conspiracy theory or not, I believe the Star Tribune is now using this program, Your and I's, to come up with content. There's no way in the world
stupid not to. Yes.
Senator Kett comes on this program, and the same morning they write this outdoor activities column, bear attacks are rare in Minnesota. That didn't just come out of thin air.
Well,
that's because of you living in the wild.
Well, I definitely think you and I should both go with that story. I also think it's possible it had to do with the woman in Wisconsin who had an unfortunate
bear attack. Yes. So you and Miss, it's okay. They're cute bears in my neighborhood. No, they eat people.
Well, I keep my trash indoors, and when we had a dog and when we get another dog, said dog will stay close to us when we're in the woods at all times.
See, you're not following this at all then, because maybe you didn't understand what this expert was saying. You don't get a dog. Dogs attract bears. Bears eat dogs. You don't want a dog. Don't get a dog if you're going to live in the cabin in the woods. And the other thing with the food, you get the idea the bears are going for the food. So you say we leave the food indoors where you are. That's the problem. I read that. I said, I'm putting my food at my neighbor's house. That's where I'm going with my food. You got to read the story.
We actually do when we leave, because I figure we're making enough noise and stuff that the bear's not going to come up into our personal space, and there's not like a lot of food, but we do put anything with scent in it in the refrigerator when we leave. So the bear would have a hard time smelling it through all those layers.
And did you know, guaranteed, if you're attacked by any bear in Minnesota, it's a brown bear or a black bear?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I did know that.
Even if the color isn't black, it's still a black bear.
It's called a black bear, yes.
Even that one that they called a polar bear at the zoo, that evidently still, it just said in the story, if you're attacked by a bear in Minnesota, it's a black bear. So if you're at the zoo and the polar bear exhibit, don't worry, it's a black bear. That's what they're telling me. I read that story. You don't like me when I talk about your bear because I'm right.
I know I'm right. It's just fine. And I know we're smart and careful about it. So
okay. And you're going to get a dog to attract the bear.
I wish our neighbors were a little more careful with their supposedly bear-proof trash can that they leave outside that entices the bears into our neighborhoods. So.
To rip the Star Trip a little bit, the whole idea of how to protect yourself should you come into a bear attack was really light. Make yourself appear bigger. I'm 5'8". I'm overweight. What, the bear didn't judge it ahead of time? That was lame. Lame.
I thought they actually did a better job of describing what that really looks like than most places that just say make yourself look bigger. Yeah.
All right. You stick up for him. I was not thrilled with it. Anyway, it came up because you were on the show today, and I thank you for being here and playing along with us. The only news stories of the day, they're going to be the same for weeks on end. And it's sad for a couple of reasons. One is I think we have to talk about it, the talk radio show. But I think we want to do it a little differently. But the other thing is guests like you, I love when I point at my guests on the radio, guests like you who know these folks intimately, you were involved with these people, that you had that job for a while. It just keeps kicking up the dust, right? I mean, I feel bad for you, but yeah. So how have you been this week?
I've been okay. It was funny. I went to a Woodbury Chamber event last night, which was great fun to be around people in our community in person, and because I spend a lot of time in my house working on my computer, But I mean, it was amazing how many people that I hadn't seen in several weeks were just like, wow, how are you doing? And, been thinking about you and all that. And somebody asked me what I used to do before I started the Woodbury Newsnet. And of course, then I had to mention that I used to be a state senator, which I'm always like, okay, how's that going to land? But I did happen to say yesterday, after having watched some of my successor's trial, that
Okay.
I did say, and I will just point out, I've never been arrested.
Yeah. Just draw some lines here so there's no vagueness.
It's not me.
Yeah. Let's you want to start there. I was going to start with the other one, but let's start with the Senator Mitchell trial then. And again, the show here really hopes among hope that when Senator Mitchell first got picked up and she said, I'm not going to say anything, when you hear everything, you will see that I did nothing wrong, that she has an explanation for all this. And I pray to God that's true, because if it is not, her family has gone through how much, and now they're back in the front page of the paper again. And, it's just, so I'm hoping that's true. The other thing is what it's done for the state of Minnesota and dragging all this through, if it's not true. So we're giving the benefit, it's true. And then the trial starts. And Monday wasn't much. They picked jurors. Okay. I thought that was only supposed to half a day, but they made a whole day out of it.
They had a big pool, I think, just in case there were, because it is a high profile trial that, I think they gave them something
15 jurors, 12 will be on, but 15. So 3 are going to sit there for the next week and do nothing and then go home, because I got to imagine you could make it a week. I guess maybe sickness or something. What pulls you off a jury? Well, other than sickness, do you blow a kidney or something? Why are you getting pulled off?
I mean, I think you could. And this, in the high profile trials we see where there is stuff in the media, people can realize perhaps that one of the jurors has been interacting with the news or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, they got to get through a week supposedly. Now we get started and both sides step up and kind of lay out their case, the lawyer folks. And between you and I read it this morning.
I watched a lot of it. So yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah,
okay.
I did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So maybe you'll have a better feel. Maybe I'm not getting it out of the paper, but I was highly disappointed in what Mitchell's defense seems to be saying is their defense. It was a welfare check for the that is such from at least what we've heard so far, that is such a stretch for me. I don't know how they pull that off. I was hoping they had a thing, and I didn't get the thing. Your thoughts so far in the first 2 days?
So I have so many thoughts, so I'm going to try to organize them in a coherent way for radio. This hits me on a lot of levels. I mean, seriously, truly one of the most angry moments in my entire life was when that seat on the Minnesota Senate floor was empty while she was sitting in jail. Because I just was like,
it was yours.
Yep. And I tried to take really good care of it for 10 years. And, just
quick time out.
Yeah.
People need to understand what you just said, because it's so much different than the rest of us. Rest of us probably saw it and said, okay, whatever. You have a whole that's what I love having you on the show. This is different than anyone else in the state. That was my seat. 10 years I worked at it, and now it sits there. So I just want to stress what you just said is huge from where you're coming from. So time out.
And then, so aside from that very sort of intense connection, and as a constituent and someone who cares about this community, and this leaves our representation up in the air in a weird way that I won't belabor right now. But the other part of it is, as you well know, I am now dealing with my third parent having dementia. My father had Alzheimer's when he died. My mother is in memory care in Dallas, and I go visit her as often as I can.
Yeah.
And within the past year, my stepmother of 50 years. So there's a parallel there.
Yeah.
And now she's having sort of remarkably progressive dementia that we've witnessed. And so, even when I started looking at this, I didn't have a stepmother with dementia when the break-in happened, right? I mean, now I do. And so I relate to this on so many levels. And one of them is, if you're going to call it a welfare check, you don't startle people with dementia in the middle of the night.
Well, that's okay. And let's go do the dementia thing real quick, because that really ticked me off in the paper. They were describing the fact that they were asked, the defense was, and she's the first witness, if you will, the gal the mother
other than law enforcement, but yes. Yeah.
So she's in, and she is trying to answer this defense guy's questions, and I don't get a feel for how nice he was about it, but she, according to the paper, was trying to remember things and was having difficulty. Children's names, the grandkids' names, dates that her husband died. And I'm like, My dad died last month, and I would have to literally. That's right. It was the 18th. This doesn't come easy, let alone something that happened 2 years ago, 4 years ago, and then this is what well, that year and a half they were walked in on, but he had died before that, so he's a couple of years into the.
Yes.
So okay, so even that, not a fair question, but I get the feeling she was struggling with the Alzheimer's, the dementia, and you could feel it. And my first thought was shame. This should have happened 2 years ago when maybe it wasn't as progressive, and you know what I'm saying, because this was only going to get worse. It doesn't get better. I felt really sorry for this woman from what I read in the paper.
Yeah. And I mean, a cynical person might say that, delays were intentionally sought, for that reason.
You get my point. 2 years ago, or 2 years, whatever long ago, it was 18 months ago, she might have been fresher on all the details. And I just feel bad for her. I felt horrible for her.
Yeah.
So,
it's, So that is all terrible. And, but I thought it was really interesting because, in listening to the opening statements, the prosecutors were very clear. And, and I've said this on this air, that if you look at what she has said, and what was in the police statement, it absolutely, to the letter of the law, fits the definition of felony burglary. Now the question comes up, and this is the argument that the defense is trying to make, what were her intentions? Was she intending to take something, like steal something, or was she just, doing a welfare check and trying to pick up her dad's shirt?
I got to go to, which is taking dad's shirt would be stealing. She can't even admit to that. As I understand it, she wants a trespass. Yes, we trespassed. I was there without it, but I had no intention of stealing anything. That would get her off because, as I understand it, they didn't even charge her with trespass. They're literally going for burglary. We'll talk about more of that on the other side. I got to get to break for a little late. She's Senator Susan Kent on the Al Travis Show.
Braver Angels Minnesota is part of a national movement that brings together conservatives, liberals, independents, and others to restore trust, respect, and goodwill in politics. We seek not to eliminate our differences, but rather deal with them head on, with respect and understanding. We do not try to change people's views, but how they view the other side. There will always be differences. Braver Angels Minnesota believes the best way forward is to change how we deal with those differences. Join the civil conversation at mn.braverangels.org.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria. Some like to experience the outdoors and all the fun winter in Minnesota can provide. Pick your favorite way to get in touch with nature. Others like to explore downtown in the warm comfort of a boutique or gathered around a table with friends. You can do all of that or relax and do nothing at all. Come explore Alexandria. Start planning at explorealex.com.
You don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on the Al Travis Show.
And we've got our Senator Susan Kent in talking with the Senator Mitchell trial right now. The interesting, again, I wanted there to be something that they were going to give us. So far, the defense has basically said it was a welfare check, and you just didn't want to startle her. That's, why she went in so stealthily. And, in fact, it shows it because when the cop showed up, she didn't run. Carrying children stay. And I'm like, and then you hear the other side. She's dressed all in black.
But they hide. Okay, sorry.
Okay. All dressed all in black, went through an egress window, took her shoes off so you wouldn't be making it.
The shoe. Can I talk about the shoes thing for a minute? Because I was having a text exchange with a friend yesterday, and I actually just read this in the Star Tribune's newsletter that the prosecutor, when he was making his opening argument, made that point that she took off her shoes to be stealthy. And when I was watching the live stream on Fox 9, the two guys who were sort of quarterbacking that and doing commentary in breaks and stuff, they kind of I was like, and I texted my friend, I was like, okay, in her defense with the shoes thing, I mean, I'm sorry, we're Minnesotans and that was a family home. And, don't we always take the shoes off when we come
after squeezing through an egress window?
Seriously though, I mean, if you walked into your parents' home, even if you were, what I mean? It's like you would take your shoes off no matter what. You would feel like, forget about the breaking in, walking in with the shoes, because being traumatized for tracking in snow and mud over your lifetime, you would just do that.
That's such a stretch, but yes, I get it. That's
that was
funny.
My first reaction to that one. I was like, I don't think I'd make so much of a big deal about a Minnesotan taking off their shoes.
Well, again, after crawling through a window, that's the welcome mat right there. You take them off, shake them off, probably not. The other thing I thought was interesting, and I didn't know that they had not been in communications for several months. They're estranged, so they hadn't been in. So I don't know in what right mind. Oh, at 4 a.m, if I show up, then she won't be scared or what? Like, what are you doing?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That isn't.
I do think, and I went through this. It's so funny because there are different causes of dementia. My father was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. My mother, I don't know what in terms of a neurological diagnosis she's gotten, and I've asked doctors and it's not clear. She has Parkinson's. She does have that. And over 30% of people who have Parkinson's have dementia. So we don't know what's going on. But I do know in the case of my mother, the paranoia was amazing. And it was weird because she was married at the time and her husband and I were having conversations about making plans and arrangements to do some logistics. And she was there. She was part of that conversation, but then she would forget the conversation and she was sure we were ganging up on her and planning all the stuff behind her back. So, if people haven't experienced that paranoia thing and some of those personality changes can be real, but you have to have support and work through that with them. And it
doesn't start in the middle of the night in the dark, right? This would be an afternoon. Right. Mom, I'm coming up. We're going to let you know I'm coming. And I just don't see in any normal. And again, I'm hoping she has some answer to this when she gets on the stand. Right. But nothing in the first day said, oh, well, that makes sense. Right. None of it made sense to me.
I watched a lot of the body cam video because I was very curious. I'd heard a lot of rumors about what was on that body cam video, and I'm a little happy to say one of them didn't come true. But the what I did see, first of all, the primary officer who was dealing with her, Sternhagen was his name. He was incredibly respectful and considerate of Senator Mitchell and compassionate to her situation. I mean, I think he could not have been more professional in the way that he handled it. And so that was one of my observations. Not that I was expecting anything different, but it really just hit me how, gracious he was to her in that situation. And, but the other thing is, so far, through the body cam video, I haven't seen anything that contradicts anything in any of the police statements or any of the official charging.
And that's what's kind of disappointed me in the first 2 days. It's like I was really hoping upon hope. With the last 20 seconds, I'll give it to you, and then we got to go to break. With what I've seen so far, even if found innocent, I don't know how she runs for office. The ads write themselves if you're running against her in the next election.
Well, I always say, there's a difference, but she absolutely, as an American citizen, has every bit of right to a fair jury trial. And we will uphold the decision of the jury.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, there's a different standard for elected officials. And I actually had that conversation at O'Malley's Irish pub last night. So with community members. Yep, absolutely. Her
All right. Well, we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, as this is going to go on for a while. The other one I want to talk about is the whole shooting with the Hortmans and the Hoffmans and what's going on there. And we'll do it after the break. I'm going to get Senator Susan Kent back. More after this.